Some leaders build brands while others build belief. Today's guest has done both, running one of the most respected creative event agencies in the US while also staying unapologetically herself through every pivot, every challenge, and every comeback. You're listening to Events Demystified podcast, and this is the CEO edition. Welcome to the Events Demystified podcast, the CEO edition. Welcome back to the Events Demystified podcast, the podcast where we strip away the highest reels and the highlight reels and talk about what leadership really looks like, the messy, the bold, and the deeply human. I'm your host, Anka Platon Trifan, and today's guest is Cindy Lowe, CEO and owner of Strong Events, Red Velvet Events. We're going to figure out which one it is. I have questions. A powerhouse of a creative agency that is based in Austin, Texas. Cindy is known for her fearless honesty, her sharp business instincts, and her unfiltered approach to leadership that's equal parts grit and grace. In this conversation, we're getting into what it really takes to build a business that lasts, the wins, the setbacks, the rebuilds, and the lessons learned along the way. So stay tuned and enjoy this conversation.
This episode is brought to you by True Fan Events Production. Learn more at truefanevents.com.
Cindy, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Great. Thank you, Anka, for having me. I'm honored to be invited.
Very exciting to have this conversation with you. And now that I've shared a glimpse of your story, I would love for our listeners to actually to get to hear it in your own words. Tell us about Strong Events or Red Velvet Events.
Yeah, I'm going to start with Red Velvet first. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's the order.
Yeah, that's the order.
Love it. And your leadership philosophy, what keeps you showing up for this industry after more than 2 decades now?
Yeah. So Red Velvet is my original baby, and sum it up as quickly as I can because I want to keep it concise, is that 23 years ago, very similar to how everyone experienced the pandemic most recently 5 years ago, is that I had my own, which was 9/11. So at that time, I was working in high tech and I was actually not doing events. I was a project manager working with business owners and the company I worked for, the software company. And I would be the middle person to translate what technical needs needed to happen on site, et cetera. However, 9/11 happened, and very similar to how COVID stopped, paused, caused everyone to rethink, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, or maybe I want to pivot my career. Mine was more of that because I was actually outside of New York City when it happened. And I had a lot of time on my hands to think about, is this how I want to live my next couple of years? And on top of that, I was rather young when 9/11 happened. And so I wanted to rethink the path. That's where it led me to Red Velvet. Now, however, I didn't write like a document and say, okay, I'm going to start Red Velvet. Red Velvet actually came out of rejection. I actually tried to go interview and get a job, but as I mentioned, I was not doing events formally or in any professional manner. So no one wanted to hire me because just
Wait, pause for a second.
Yeah.
Why events? Like, why would you go into events? Anyone in their right mind, events is such a taxi industry to be in.
It is. What's interesting is even all throughout my college career and even as I was in my professional career, I was always doing events on the side, not for paid, for volunteer, because that was my outlet of being able to be creative, logistic minded, budget oriented, et cetera. And so when I decided to leave software, a lot of my friends, especially the ones that knew me in business school, were like, you should really go into events. You seem naturally fit for it. You would do very well, et cetera. But of course, I tried to first apply for the jobs. And just like COVID, again, events had stopped thanks to 9/11. And what I didn't understand is that I didn't look very impressive on a resume since I had no formal experience. So after getting rejected from 3 different people, I decided to start Red Velvet because, again, the feedback when I asked them, why did you not hire me or why did you not give me a chance, was you don't have any formal experience. I said, okay, in my business side brain, I said, if I create the experience, you'll hire me a year from now. So that's why I actually formed Red Velvet. It was not the intent to grow Red Velvet. It was the intent to get a job a year later.
I love that.
Needless to say, since it just turned 23 years old, I never did close back.
Right.
I kept it growing.
I'm sure you had this conversation a year later. I don't think that's actually the direction I want to go now.
That is exactly what happened. Yeah. So that's the short end of what happened with Red Velvet. Now, Red Velvet, how it's different from Strong Events, to give people perspective if they're not familiar with the two brands. Red Velvet, we've actually evolved. I joke in many ways that we are like a cat with 9 lives, except we are in probably chapter 3.5 right now. And what I mean by that is when we first started, it was just me, myself, and I had to figure everything out. And then once I got pregnant with my first child, my husband was like, hey, you're going to probably need to figure out how to scale, because there's no way you're going to be able to be a working mom of one and be able to grow the business and do what you want to do all by yourself. And he was right. So I brought on an employee, and I got very lucky. My very first full-time employee was an amazing rock star. And we ended up growing the company really quickly because we had a lot of monumental moments. By coincidence, we were in Austin. Austin was growing. She was amazing. And we just, again, grew the company very quickly to, I think, 4 to 7 people in that first couple of years. So then I had to scale it properly because there were definitely some issues. And that's when we had what I call chapter 2, because I realized I didn't want to do all types of events. I really wanted to focus in core areas. And that's also when one of the hotels that had met me said, hey, have you ever thought about being a DMC in Austin? Austin's growing. We need a strong DMC. I had no idea what that even meant, but I figured it out. And we ended up becoming, I'll be honest, we were always 1 and 2 with one other DMC, but unfortunately that other DMC folded during the pandemic. So we naturally became number 1. But what they didn't know is I was already planning our chapter 3 of our iteration of our business. I was fully pivoting to an experiential agency. So in fall of 2020, I ripped the Band-Aid off and we completely left the DMC market and have focused 100% on experiential marketing, because that is where the core of what I enjoy and what I enjoy leading the team by, selling, etc. So now fast forward to August 2023, I decided to buy Strong Events, and that is a complementary business to Red Velvet. They are a completely separate team. In fact, Strong Events is celebrating 35 years in 2026. So they've been around even longer than Red Velvet, but they are not, I know even though the name Events is in this name, we are actually 100% a supplier. We are not producers over at Strong Events. What we do is we fabricate custom pieces, whether it's rentals or props for your stage backdrop, your photo moment, your festival, your sponsorship. And because of my experiential background over at Red Velvet, I've been able to lean into fully of what a corporation might want, what a DMC might even want, and use that expertise to help Strong grow into its next chapter.
I feel like that's two separate business models, right?
It is very separate.
So different. Having an inventory, having a warehouse,
a place
to hold all of those things. It's a completely different type of business than just producing events and having the service of what that is versus the whole manufacturing.
One thing I have been very frank with, since this is supposed to be CEOs Demystified, is that I have gotten so used to running Red Velvet that I honestly didn't know how to manage blue collar employees. And so that the last 2 years of owning Strong Events has actually been a very humbling experience for me, because I thought I had the right management in place and I thought I had the right people in place. But over time, things have slowly unwounded and shown me that I didn't. And so I'm still correcting some stuff.
I love that. We're definitely going to get into the nitty-gritty of that, because you've been leading teams and producing experiences for years. And as you're learning, there's different kind of experiences, different kind of events, and different kind of producing that goes into all of that. So let's rewind for a minute here. What was your first, this is really happening moment, that point when you realized that this wasn't just a dream, but a business built to last? Like after that one first year when you realized, I'm not going to go back to ask for a job. I'm actually going to make my own bed. And they might come and work for me instead.
So there's 2 moments. The very first moment, I was still pretty small because it was just me at the time, but I was up for an award and I actually won and I beat Disney. And I did not expect that at all. In
Wow.
fact, even Disney didn't expect that either.
Who's this? Wait a
Yes,
second.
and I fully admit, when I saw who was on the finalist list, I was like, okay, they clearly needed a third finalist. And I was like, I will just go to the dinner. I'll cheer on Disney, or the other one
Yeah.
that I can't even think of who the finalist was. It was also a bigger name than myself. So I was like, okay, I'm not, Red Velvet will just be excited to be a finalist. And I actually won. And
Wow.
I was like, whoa. And then I actually got the chance to talk to the Disney representative too afterwards, because that was also very meaningful, because they were like, hey, we should stay in touch and keep track, because, and it's true, I've learned a lot from all the people I've met in my time. The second thing I knew was right is when I would always go back to clients after a job was done, and I would ask them several questions. But the two that were the most important was, one, did you feel like you paid a fair price? And
Mm.
two, would you use us again? And the first time a client actually told me I would have paid more than what you charged me, I realized there was a business model that I could do.
Those
That's
are really some defining moments for sure. I
yeah,
can see how it definitely set the tone for everything that came afterwards.
yeah,
Thinking about what you built, and you pride yourself into building your brand on honestly, on saying it as it is, even when it's not necessarily the easiest route, right? What's
yeah.
one leadership moment where being brutally real has paid off, and one when it just didn't? And how do you decide when to push, when to pivot, and when to
Yeah.
protect your peace?
That's a great question, and I'm still learning because
Right. We
yeah,
don't all have it figured out, right?
yeah,
That's why
yeah,
we have
well,
those conversations, so we can
correct.
learn from each other.
Because the moment you think you've got it figured out, it changes again.
Yeah.
So I will tell you, to answer your first question, which is when it's always paid off, is when I do have the trust of the client or even the employee. Me being honest, it allows them to drop their shield. They realize I'm not out to get them. They realize I'm trying to give them feedback so that we can all advance together. I really truly believe we only get better as a team, meaning all boats rise with the tide, not, hey, let me hold you back or let me get the credit. It really is, if the best compliment I've always told my team is when a client comes to me and says, man, ABC employee was the best employee, that always makes me feel so good, because I'm like,
Mm,
yes, because that means they too have a career in this crazy industry we're in. And that's what I want to do, is that I want to continue to set them up for success so that they continue to be able to grow and do bigger and better events. Or if they don't want to do bigger and better events, at least grow as a professionally so that they're happy and satisfied. Because one of the things that I quickly realized after I come into this industry is that I love the satisfaction that I found something that really brought me joy, both even in the stress. It was the problem solving. It was all of that. And to be told is that when you go to business school at UT McCombs, which is where I went to school, University of Texas, a lot of the speakers that came in and gave us professional talks, they always talked about the money and the success, but they never talked about their happiness.
mm.
No one ever genuinely said, I love finance or I love mergers and acquisitions. You
Because
could
it makes you wonder if they really truly love it.
That's exactly right, Anka. So that's why I was like, I always wondered, I go, do you love the money or do you love
Mm,
the challenge?
right.
And then when I met the first time I met a lawyer that really loved what she did, I realized it is possible. Like, you can love your job and have money too. And that's what I want to help people find, because I genuinely feel like I gotten so lucky that I was able to find something I love, I'm very passionate about, and I can do well and I can make money off of it. But I realize that's not for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm hoping people will see, because this industry is not for everyone. Now, where it has failed me is actually just the exact same flip of what that is at. I am almost too brutally honest. Some people are taken aback and
Mhm.
they question my sincerity sometimes if they don't know me well. And so then they ask, why would you be so honest and tell me the truth? And I go, because honestly, I'm running at 200 miles per hour. I just want to tell you the honest truth versus tiptoeing.
Yeah.
And as long as I
I
think
don't
you
have
can,
time to actually
yes,
deal with
correct.
with this turning into this big drama. Like, if we
Correct.
get
And
to
so,
the truth the faster out, then maybe
correct.
we can both move from here
So if
forward.
assuming I feel like they have the maturity and the
Yeah.
ability to take the information in,
Yeah.
I'll tell them, because to me, I want to get to the end, because I am always constantly looking at what steps do I have to take to get the company or to get the team member or to get to the next deadline, because I just want to grow and I want to get to that end goal as quickly as possible and reasonably as possible.
So let me ask you something, because the flip side of, right, like being a good leader and wanting your team to succeed and setting them up to succeed is they might move away off onto doing their own thing, right? And you invest all this time and you want them to grow, you want them to be successful. But then sometimes you're also like, I'm raising them, I'm mentoring them to become someone whom in the future they might be my competitors if they decide to go their own way. Now, not everybody has it in themselves. That's another thing that I had to learn, that just because I have the drive, you have the drive. And even if you set someone to go after it, they might not have the same drive, and they're perfectly comfortable to be where they are as long as they're happy where they are. So I guess it can be like a two-edged sword, but at the same time, like if you make that person happy, they will stay, they will be loyal, because not everybody will drive after wanting to do their own thing, run after their own thing, right?
Correct. And to be honest, I used to live in that headspace, always worried about that, but I don't know what flipped. Maybe it was also COVID. We had quite a few people that left and decided to do their own thing. And at the moment, I was very upset, of course, because I was like, man, we trained them, we gave them all this knowledge, and they obviously know our systems very well and our process. But at the end of the day, everything is meant to happen for a reason. And if they are truly happier being on their own versus working for us as a team, then let me help them. Now, of course, if they did it in a very, what I call an unethical manner, I won't help them as much. But generally, we send quite a few referrals, because we get many leads right now that don't fit our agency model. And so we really do try to pass it on to people that makes sense, because if it doesn't match our current model, I'm talking specifically about Red Velvet, I want to help them. I don't want to leave the door closed and say, tough luck, you can't work with Red Velvet, good luck. I'll try to see who I know in my Rolodex so that I can pass it along. And that's where, honestly, knowing where all of my past employees have gone, I know, because in truth be told, I feel like I do know where their strengths and weaknesses are. And I try to set them up for success, because I'm very proud of actually quite a few that have gone off to do their own thing right now, where they take a lot of the smaller projects from us, and it's great for them because it's the right size. And so to me, once you get past that, it's better. Yes, it does sting in the moment, but to be honest, I just have to be okay and understand and be the bigger person, and also be confident enough that we'll be able to survive from that. If it was, hey, if they beat me out, or if they really want to become a bigger competitor to us, then I'm always say, bring it on. I'm a very competitive person, but at the same time, I truly do believe there's enough business in Austin alone, even Texas and worldwide, for all of us to have a spot. So to me, I don't see it as truly an issue, because then that means I need to do a better job of explaining to these clients what our differentiators are.
I love that.
Events Demystified, the podcast for event professionals.
You've said earlier that you're really known for showing up exactly as you are in business, on stage, online. And this level of transparency sometimes has been misunderstood or maybe challenged. How do you then navigate being yourself while still being the face of a growing company?
I'm still learning. I've honestly gotten my hand slapped a few times the last 12 to 24 months, especially right now. Anyone, that's listening to this, I don't know when this will get pushed out. We're living
a few months down the line, so you could say easily, well, it's been a while. I've been doing good.
No, but we're living in a tumultuous time. And anyone that's been willing to listen, I've been explaining to them, 2025 has felt like COVID year, except we're not in lockdown. And when I decide to talk a little bit explaining why I feel this way, some people get really upset and they're like, why are you saying that's not true? And I said, it is true, because corporate clients think that we can turn anything on a dime. And because our Red Velvet team is trained and very smart and very agile, try to accommodate, but I don't want to constantly be the firefighter, if that makes sense, because that will not only exhaust and burn out my team, but it is very concerning. So basically, these clients don't have any respect for timelines. And so they might be able to help me find the budgets. The great news is at least they're calling me with very reasonable budgets. But the bad news is they're not giving us a whole lot of time to be strategic. to figure out who the best partners are, to figure out how to pull it off. And because we do continue to pull it off, because we're very honest with that money, this is what
They
we can
keep
do.
pushing the envelope.
Yes, exactly. And so we haven't failed yet, knock on wood.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is that I don't want us to fail, but at the same time, it doesn't feel good to be basically in this bubble and planning so fast and furious.
Mm.
And I do worry for my team at Red Velvet, because we don't tend to say no, because we want the revenue. We also want the client to be happy. And these are big name brands. These are not like small. It's easy
Yeah.
for us to say no to a smaller company because
Yeah.
no one's going to know. But when a big company comes in, all of a sudden, we almost do drop everything to accommodate them. And that's the hard part. And that's the part where I constantly worry, because it's not they're taking advantage of our rate. They're taking advantage of our kindness, of being willing to bend over backwards and basically
Mhm.
work those crazy hours, basically make miracles happen in a short time frame.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, you executed Delta's
Yeah.
lounge,
Yeah.
right?
It
At
was,
South by.
it was at South by
Oh,
Southwest.
that was amazing.
Thank you.
If anybody had the chance to visit, that is what really put Cindy on the map, on my map. I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
how
Cindy does
fun.
some excellent job.
And
Like
honestly,
her
that was the first
team
time
was,
back since South by, because we had been doing some big stuff
yeah,
prior to pandemic. And that's what's crazy, is that it took Delta to put us back on the map, because we were already doing stuff prior to the
yeah.
pandemic. The
But
pandemic
I
messed
can
up
imagine
everything.
like what you just said, like if a
Yeah.
client like that comes along, right? Delta comes
Yeah.
along and says, yeah, we got this thing 2 weeks from now
Yep.
and go.
Now
Sure, they might throw the money and have the
yeah,
budget. But like you said, it's not just about the money. It's about
correct.
how stretch are we,
Yeah.
how far are we stretching our team?
Yep.
And when you constantly push that hard,
Yeah.
pedal to the metal all the
Yep.
time, what is the longevity in our industry that we look at as far as thriving, not just during change, but also long term? So how do you know when to like evolve and really push hard versus when it's important to hold your ground, to set some
Yeah.
boundaries, not because you don't care about the client, you absolutely do, right?
Oh, we do.
It's
Yeah.
more about, I also care about my team. Like I don't
Yeah.
want my team to be burned out and into the ground, because one too many of those last minute deadlines like this will do
Yeah.
it.
This one's hard. We evaluate, honestly, me and my executive team meet every Thursday just to go over this, because our first question usually is, how's the team morale?
Mhm.
Where are they at? Do we need to be supplying them with additional resources? Because oftentimes some of them are too prideful to actually raise their hand and say, hey, I would like another producer. I would like another assistant here. And so we'll try to push and figure out, is this the time where we need to bring someone in to augment the team? It is tricky, because also we've got what I call perfectionist achievers that want to hold everything to, they are used to working with their core teammates. But then if I throw in like a contractor that has experience, very seasoned, but they're not used to working with them, they tend to hold all their stuff closely. And I've reminded them, I go, these projects are really big. You can't hold all these cards that close to you. You really do need to let go and delegate. And it's hard for them. And we try to guide them. I have some great managers on our Red Velvet team that have been trying to show them that what it looks like. But I'm going to be honest, this has been still a work in progress. It's been a work in progress for a couple of years now. And anytime we see someone getting close to that burnout point, we do bring them in and go, hey, you really do need to make sure that you protect yourself, because otherwise you will feel, well, one, you're going to regret us, and you're going to also regret the client. And I don't want that to happen. I really want you to walk away and go, damn, I did that. I want you to be proud of that moment versus, damn, I hate my life because I worked this many hours, or I like this feeling. And that's hard because this is it is a grind. But at the same time, if you can find that right balance for you, it really is rewarding. I have truly enjoyed majority of the events I've touched. There's only a handful of events where I'm like, I won't do that again, but it's in the minority. That's what I'm saying. It's really in the minority. For the most part, I am really grateful for all the experiences I've had.
I think this challenge that you speak of is not necessarily just common to your own team. I hear this very much in different cross teams where, like, it's particular because I deal in technology and production. That is very popular, especially in production teams where you have this core team of AV leads. And then every time you bring someone in, it feels like they're very closed off to the
Yeah.
newcomer because they're trying to protect their flow. They're trying to
Yeah.
protect the way they've always done things and how they read each other and how
Yeah.
they know without words what's going to happen and how it's
Yeah.
going to happen, all of that. But I think, especially when you think about mentorship in our industry, when you think about raising the next generation, when you think
Yeah.
about there's a lot of event professionals, they're in their 40s and 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
They're really like going towards retirement fast, right? And
Yeah.
there's this gap between us and the other generation. They're like 20s and maybe 30s. Very rarely do I see actually 30s. I see more
Yeah.
20s. They want to come in, and there's this gap. And if we don't allow for that cross-pollination to happen, because we're so like restrictive with who we bring and allow in our circles, that's a big problem, and not
I
a
agree with
problem
you.
that can be solved necessarily here and now in one team. It's across the industry problem, like
Yeah.
something that we have to take into consideration and think about how will we break those habits and make it more inclusive for others to be able to come and learn on site. Like they might be extremely proficient in their role, but again, there's team dynamics, there are
Yeah.
cultures, there are different things that need to be part of that equation for that person to be successful. And I think that's a challenge that a lot of teams deal with, regardless if they're on the marketing side, they're on the experiential, production, technology,
Yeah.
whatever side.
Totally.
So when you think about navigating some of the challenges, as you mentioned, how you have different teams, two different business models, what's been the biggest lesson that you've learned? This works with this team, but it doesn't work with this team. And what was like your aha moments that you've learned in the middle of this, like setting up of completely two different companies?
So here's what's interesting though. Even though I know they're two different teams, I have to say though, it still matters regardless of communication. And so one of the things that I have been trying to instill at strong events has been over communicating, because we have some extremely talented people here at Strong. Like I said, they're turning 35 years old next year. But the one thing they were horrible at was internal communications, because everyone knew what they needed to do to get the job done.
I have an inkling of the generational gap that's happening there as well.
But no one wanted to talk to each other because they were like, I get it done. And I'm like, yeah, but in
You
order
have to
for
communicate.
in order for piece A to B to C to D to everything to get to the end and for us to install successfully, we have to communicate. And so that has been something I've been trying to work on. We have improved a ton in the last 24 months, but would I give us an A? No, sadly.
This episode is brought to you by True Fan Events Production. We don't just produce events, we power them with AV, AI, and a strategy. From bespoke AV production planning and management to AI workshops, courses, and keynotes, we help teams build smarter events and stronger businesses. Learn more at truefanevents.com.
What would you say were the learnings, as in if you're someone that's dealing with that type of challenge, what were your steps? Like, okay, we tried this, that didn't work, but then we tried this and that seemed to work, right? I remember having this amazing mentor and a boss that I worked with back in my LA rockstar days when we were working a lot of VIP experiences and red carpet moments and A-lister concerts, all of that. But he was notorious for literally putting the plan on a napkin. Like he was a dinner client, and here's the plan. It's on a napkin. A napkin could have been used or not. We never knew. But that is not a proposal. That's not a quote. That's not an RFP. What is this thing? But it was like this, like trying to break through that. That was a habit that was so hard to break.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we have been trying different processes, and each time when I can see that one is actually causing more work versus actually the results, then I'll pivot again. I will be honest, that has actually caused some frustration because people are like, how come we can't stick to one process? And I go,
we're all using Asana, and then
we've stuck with Trello since the beginning, but the challenge is not everyone is using Trello. So I've been trying very hard to get everyone to log in. And so then we added some stand-up meetings, and then we are adding like check-in meetings. And so now, because I'm here 5 days a week instead of, I used to only be here 2.5 days, I now have a check-in at the end of the day too now with them, because I go, guess what? We're going to pull up Trello together and we're going to look at this together. to check off everything. And that way we know what we're going into on Wednesday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
That is tricky because here's the thing is that every person works very differently. I truly do believe, though, every person has a natural strength, meaning, do they love spreadsheets? Do they love to communicate? Do they love to draw? Can they see the vision? And I think it is my job, also the manager's jobs on the team, to activate that strength, meaning I know XYZ employee here is really good at spreadsheets. And then I know this XYZ employee is very good at email. So I'm going to try to get them to help pair each other off. So maybe to get them to it, because I can already tell that the employee that was really good at spreadsheets is not great at responding to email. So it's like I'm trying really hard to find ways so that we are working smarter, not harder. But in all truth be told, it's still a work in progress. And I'm trying to get everyone on board. But it is very hard, to be honest, because when you have a team that has been very set in their ways for a long time, and you try to meet them halfway, and if they're not willing to meet halfway, it's tricky because it does cause a lot of friction.
Yeah.
And we've brought in a lot of new people since I bought the company 2 years ago. And I'm proud to say that the new people understand the effectiveness of communication, the effectiveness of over communication, the effectiveness of even using technology.
You're probably also younger, right?
Actually, not necessarily. Some of them are not.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's more, I
Interesting.
ask them, do you run away from tech or do you run towards it? Because I know I'm the type that I run towards it. I don't run away from it.
Yeah.
And if you run away
So
from it,
it's a
that's the
mindset.
problem. It is a mindset. So to me, it's not so much about age, it's about your personality.
Interesting. Yeah.
So
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Because
So
I have the uncles that are excellent at keeping up with the latest tech and all the changes. And you think that they wouldn't, but they are. And then
They
there's,
love it.
people like my parents, they're like, it takes them forever just to learn how to video chat.
You got it. You got it.
So
Exactly.
you're totally right. So in that instance, then what would you say would be the best approach to do it in a way that brings the least friction? Because you're right, like friction means hurt feelings.
It does. Oh my
hurt
God.
feelings means projects get delayed.
Oh yeah.
All of these things that come from the
Well, let me share with you just at a high level what I wish I had done differently. Since I know I run at 200 miles per hour, I wish 2 years ago when I first bought this company, I wish I actually had brought some of my management team from Red Velvet over here. Not permanently, just temporarily, just to show them, to reassure them that this is how Cindy works. Cindy moves very fast. She's going to always make changes if she sees, someone's struggling there, in the sense that she's going to want to figure out how to solve it in the fastest way possible. Because usually it's time or money. And I'm always like, do I need more bodies or do I need more money? Like one of those two has to answer the question.
Yeah.
And now with AI, sometimes I can get away with not even more bodies. I can just get away with someone that actually knows how to use AI. So there's little things like that. So that's one thing I wish I'd done differently, is that if you're going to roll out massive changes, try to bring on board leadership that actually truly understands what you're trying to do. And they're reasonable with understanding and giving grace to the employees too, because I am not a type of leader that says, hey, my way or the highway, but I do have very high expectations. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to shy away of saying, no, I'll be honest, that was like a C or D effort. And a funny story, over the summer, my daughter came and shadowed me for 2 weeks before she went back off to college. And she was at one of our all hands meetings, and I gave a report card of different areas for the team. And she was being my Spanish translator because she actually speaks Spanish fluently. And when it came to one section, she goes, do you know that my mom is Asian? And for her to give you a C, that's like an F. And she said this all in Spanish. And I was like, oh my gosh, Sophia. And she goes, no, I had to tell them because I think they thought you were being nice. And I'm like, no, she is failing you, but you just don't even know it. And that's the part where I was like, I have high expectations. I want A's. I don't want B's, C's, and F's. I want A's. And it's
you said it right there. Do you not know that my mom has been raised by a tiger mom herself?
Yes. Now, what's funny is I'm not even a tiger mom with my own kids because they ended up becoming tiger kids. So it's funny. They're kind of like
my kids do.
Yes.
I see my son disciplining my daughter. I'm like, stop it. You're not the parent.
Yes. And it's funny because I do wonder if they got it from me, because I honestly am not the tiger mom at home, because I already have enough stress from work that I don't need to be the tiger mom at home. And so I do find it hilarious that my kids are tiger kids. They're like,
No, I
Mom,
think it's
you're
the
breaking the
vibe. It might
rules.
not even be like you bringing home the work, but it's more
Yeah.
of like that's how you execute, that's how you are.
Yeah.
And you might not even realize because I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I'm definitely like one making perfectionist
Yes.
and with high expectations,
Yeah.
type A personalities, and they want to do a lot of things and move
Yeah.
fast. And I'm like, dude, they're like really the meanies of me, but they're so hard to raise right now because they have all these opinions.
Of
They'll make
course.
some great adults.
Yeah, yeah, they will be. And you'll be
I
so
love
proud
it.
of them when they're independent, because that's where I am at this stage of my life. And I'm extremely grateful that they're healthy, they're independent, they have a mind of their own. They
Yeah.
won't take any bullshit, which is hilarious
Yeah.
because me and my husband did do that we're the ones who definitely instill that in them. So sometimes when they debate us, it's hard to argue. Like we look at each
Yeah.
other and go, oh my gosh, they just made a very valid point, Scott.
That's awesome. I love it. So let me take you back for a
Yeah.
second because we talked about all of this, and I want to take you back to the moment where you became a CEO, right? Like at first
Yeah.
you said you were a CEO, but in all truthfulness, you were running the entire thing yourself. You were the
Yeah.
CEO and the last person to close the door, right?
Yeah.
So when you think about what your definition of a CEO was back then versus what it is now, how would you define the two different versions of the CEO that you have been? You've
Yeah.
grown from one into the other, right? Or if you've had any transition, and how do you reconcile the two
Yeah.
versions?
I definitely have evolved, but I also, when I get asked this question at the business school I speak at, I try to also explain, you have to remember, I nominated myself to be CEO because I started my own business.
Right.
There is also becoming a CEO of a Fortune 500 company where you have a public board and all that stuff. That's a very different type of CEO because you all of a sudden have a board that you have to report to. So let's assume you're talking about small business, medium-sized business, where you own all of it 100%. And the number one thing I always say is you've got to recognize what kind of CEO you are. Are you the type that you can delegate and you're the visionary and recognize what people can bring to the table? Or are you the type that you're going to hoard everything and try to do it yourself? And because that is not a CEO, you might as well call yourself the general manager or the managing partner, something other than CEO. Because to me, a CEO is trying to grow a business and scale it. Because I technically called myself president of Red Velvet up until the point when I realized I did want to scale Red Velvet one more time, and not just from a revenue perspective, but from a size. So I converted myself or I changed my title from president to CEO so that I could focus on the visionary. I promoted some of our leadership team members to the executive team and really have them manage everything. And to this day, right now, because I am mostly at Strong, Red Velvet, I only go to 2 meetings a week. And so I'm only there 4 hours, 2 hours on Mondays and 2 hours on Thursdays. And pretty much I'm at Strong all the rest of the time. I do obviously respond to Slack and read emails in the evening, but in general, I'm not in the day-to-day at Red Velvet. I'm more the visionary of which account would we like to go after? Is there someone there that I can make an introduction? Is there a way I would sell this if I saw the RFP and I had an idea, that kind of stuff. But yeah.
Very interesting. So you would say now you're more in a strategic kind of
100% at Red Velvet.
You are operational, you are logistical. And that's I think it's a good lesson to take even for someone that right now they might be doing all the things, right? In events, small businesses, like that's how they get started really in most cases, unless you work for a larger company. That being said, if you want to evolve, if you want to scale, then you have to let go of all the responsibilities that you've carried all this time. But I think it also comes with a level of being able to take on risk. Like when you bring in your first employee, you take on risk. When you open this line of credit, you take on risk. When you go after this one big client that is larger than any of your previous clients, you take on risk. So being able to deal with that, I think it's also one of the important characteristics that defines, a president or somebody running a company or a solopreneurship or whatever versus a CEO, because yes, you do manage the people, but you also have to manage risk. And I think the hardest part for a lot of people is managing risk. And I think sometimes women actually deal with that the hardest, because managing risk at that level, I think it comes with so much baggage and responsibility.
Yeah.
And you're always thinking of everyone else that you carry with you,
It's
like
true.
your
It's true.
employees, your
Yeah.
family, your kids. If I fail, there's
Yeah.
a lot of things that are
Yeah.
at risk here.
No, totally. I talk about a little bit in my book because I call it calculated risk, meaning you know how much you're willing to lose, or maybe you don't, then figure it out. Because I always did it in financial terms, like how much
Yeah.
money, if I take this risk and it doesn't go as I planned, how much money am I willing to lose before I have to throw in the towel or pivot again?
Yeah.
So is it $500,000? Is it $1,000,000? Is it not even that? Is it smaller? So figuring that out helps you solidify and be okay with, be at peace with taking those calculated risks. So you are very true. You're very right in saying that you have to be okay with taking some risk if you want to scale. And I should have mentioned earlier too, it is totally okay if you decide after you hear this, you're like, nope, I just rather be myself and I'd rather find a few clients and then do it that way. There
Yeah.
is no negativity to that as long as you are personally satisfied. To me, I think that's even the more important piece, is that you have to know what makes you happy. Because once I decided I wanted to scale the business, I couldn't turn back because I wanted to either go big or go home. And so I was like, okay, here we go.
Love it. As you build this career, the two businesses, and pretty much on your own terms, right? And as your business evolves now, how
Yeah.
do you define success today? Is it growth? Is it impact? Is it
Yeah.
balance? Is it peace? Is it something entirely different?
I think that's a good question I will say both of them, because there are two different stages in their career path. I have different success metrics. So like for Red Velvet right now, if I can continue to do as well as it is right now without me spending more than 4 hours, I think it's a success, because that means we're seeing the people come into our team. They're new, they're learning, they're growing, they're getting exposure to some of the bigger accounts, and we're still scaling. That's huge. And I'm not having to be in the weeds.
Yeah, that means you
Strong,
build a really well-oiled machine,
correct.
basically.
For strong, we are probably, I would say, maybe 10 to 12 months, maybe even 14 months away from just even getting a more refined process. I'm right now defining success as that we are truly communicating all to each other. We have each other's back. We have the company culture that I've been striving for, which is I want everyone to be accountable and I want everyone to be proud of the work we do. I don't want finger pointing, and I don't want people to be wondering, wow, did I not get assigned to that job because Cindy doesn't like me or whatever. Like, it's still very what I would call petty. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to fix
It's
some of
raw.
those,
It's
because
still raw.
it's not, because again, every single person here is extremely talented, but we have some behaviors that remind me of what I call a very junior mindset. That's the part I'm trying to fix.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
By the time this episode comes up, I hope it would be like
it.
we have managed to actually really check mark the
Yeah.
one thing off the list. I think I was actually having a conversation with another CEO for
Yeah.
the CEO edition, and it was a little bit surprising to me to hear they're a large tech company in our space.
Okay.
And he said that he spends 90% of his time now managing employees and culture. And to me, it was a little interesting because I'm like, what do you mean managing employees? Wouldn't
Yeah.
that be your HR manager, your
No, it's him.
director of people,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call them person? And it was because he really cared about who's in what role and if they're really doing not just the best of their ability, but they're really thriving so
Yeah.
that the entire company can thrive. Because
Yeah.
it's not just one person here and there that might squeak,
Correct.
is the squeaky wheel, right? But if a lot of those moving parts start squeaking, that's when the whole culture can collapse. And you're
100%.
right, like in so many ways, you're like, I'm spending most of my time actually managing culture, managing people right now, because that's what means scaling and growing for this
Yep.
part of the company right now. Very interesting.
Yeah. No, it's totally, again, that's why I said I do find it fun, challenging at times, sometimes a little teary-eyed, but hey, it's going to work out.
I love it. As we come to a close here, another thing that I want to touch on, because around here we also talk a lot about fit for events, or
Yeah.
showing up as your best self, mentally, physically, emotionally. So when you think about what fit for leadership is for you, what are some of the practices, some of the mindsets or the habits that help you stay strong in business and in life?
So my one habit that I've actually apparently stuck, because someone saw me from college this past weekend that knew me back when I was in my what is that, like late teens, early 20s. And they said, "Do you still do this?" And I go, "Oh my gosh, yes, I do." So let me share it because it's funny, because to me, it does bring me peace because I feel like I have organization and I know. So everything still goes in my calendar. So I know exactly how full my day is. And I know people laugh that it's programmed to every 15 minutes. But I'm telling you, I now know how busy I am leading right up to Thanksgiving before we go on break. And because I know every slot is taken and I know where I need moments. And I know that doesn't work for everyone, but for me, it does, because I can figure out quickly if I can slot something new in or if I have to postpone it till much later. Because a lot of times, the reason why, at least for me, why I become stressed is because everyone wants something of me and I can't give it to them.
Yeah.
But if I can give them an answer of, hey, I can do that, but it won't be until mid-January, it
Yeah.
won't be until mid-March, I already feel at ease because at least I got back to them.
Yeah.
And that is my mental mindset. I will say I do enjoy working out, and I sadly have not worked out since I bought Strong Events. So one of my goals for 2026, probably after I hit the halfway mark, because unfortunately the first 6 months I'm already knowing I'm too busy. I want to get back into working out again, because I genuinely, if I can just get even 30 minutes in the morning, I feel more like it's a checklist. It's okay, done. I feel healthier. I feel like things are good. And even though I don't look overweight, I don't feel great because I know and mentally in my head, I haven't done my 30 minutes of exercise.
Here's a solution
Yeah.
for you, Cindy. Tonal. You're gonna install a
tonal?
tonal in your office.
Oh, is that the
It is
machine?
like the machine that you install, and it has basically
Yeah.
everything that you need is in one panel.
That's
And you have your
I have seen
yeah.
it.
I have one of my clients that actually runs 2 companies. Like you could be sisters, honestly. She's very much running a tech company and an
Nice.
event experiential company as well, and travels a lot. And I told her, I'm like, if you want to stay up with
Yeah.
your level of fitness, because it's the same way. It's not just being fit, feeling
Yeah.
fit, looking good. It's about
Correct.
what that does to your mental health, to emotional health, like the whole being, right? The
Yeah.
wholesome that we are as a person. And she actually did. She installed one of those in one of
Nice.
her offices. And she's like, in between meetings, when I have 15 minutes, 30 minutes, I get on it. I have those mini workouts that I pre-built for her and ready to go. And I'm telling you, Cindy, that's what
I don't
will
need it in
get
my office,
you.
to be honest, because I'm always too busy, but I do.
No, in your warehouse where people are.
No, what I need to do is I need to change so this used to be my routine, and I changed it, and that's where I bad at myself. So my routine used to be I got up at 4 in the morning so that I could work out from 4 to 5, because then I felt like no one was bothering me, my phone wasn't going off.
Yep.
And what I've been doing is from 4 to 5, I generally usually work on Red Velvet stuff before I go to Strong. And that's the thing I need to change, is that I was like,
calendar.
It's
I
like I've
totally
been,
feel you.
So I'm going to change it. I'm going to.
No, I'm the same way, because like I would wake up at 4:30 to get a lot of the work done before the kids wake up, before work start, right? And I used to set that time for myself to actually write and edit my book.
Oh, nice.
And because I'm in the process of writing my book, I'm gonna publish it next year now, because it was gonna be this year, but then I started like getting busy. And literally the problem is, as you said, I started taking that time that was my sacred time and fill it out with other responsibilities, building this app and working on this event and still waking up at the same time, but yet taking that time away from that one sacred time that I allotted for myself, right? Because I'm like you, if it's not in my calendar, it will never happen. My kids know to come here in the office and look at my calendar and be like, Mom, my daughter, it looks like you have a little bit of break between this and this. How about we do some time, a girly time for ourselves?
That's
I'm
cute.
like, if you see that slot, we're filling it. It's done, right? But to me, I'm the same way. Like sometimes I would even go back. Let's just say I have some empty space and already fill it out with things that I do. I literally go back and put it in what I worked on, because I want to have, it's almost like a recollection of all the things that I've done. Because sometimes you're like, I worked on this and I worked on this and I worked on this. And I'm like, I have no idea when, and you forgot. But if you go back to your calendar and you do a quick search, it will all pop up. It's like your journal, even if you don't keep a journal, it's like right there. So I'm totally with you. If it's in the calendar, it will happen. If it's not, and I plan like in advance the same way. It's like, I will plan like adulting, right? Hey, let's get together. I'm like, let me look in November of 2027 when I have an open slot.
I get it.
I love it. Okay, Cindy, as we're wrapping up,
Yeah.
anything else that you want to share with our audience? When you think about your journey, you think about the businesses that you build, think about the challenges you've had, anything that you want to share with either someone that is new coming into the industry, someone that is in the middle of it, building business as well, anything worth mentioning that you feel like you haven't touched on yet?
Something I always share with any new business owner, because that means the responsibility is on you to like close the deals, to make the money work and all that. I do remind them, if you get a few no's, don't let that get you down. That's normal. You think you're alone on an island, but no, really, this is just normal day-to-day business. So find a source, a resource, whether it be your partner in life, whether it be your best friend, whether it even be someone maybe in the industry that you can count on to cheer you up, because there's going to be a lot more no's than there are yeses. But trust me, when the yeses come, they're amazing. And you got to just keep your chin up, because I know we talk about it on social media, all the wins, but I try to remind people, let's be realistic. I got a lot of no's too before I got the wins. So don't think just because we're sharing our wins that we didn't get rejected behind the scenes. So that's something that I try to remind people, because when they look at social media, they're like, oh my gosh, everything's perfect. And you just don't know how many, like you can just look at our CRM and you can see how much more red there is than green.
No, I think that's keeping it real. And because again, social media, what is social media for but to share your highlights?
Correct.
And many of those highlights are good highlights, because if you're sharing bad highlights, then
then no one's going to want to watch a depressed person.
Exactly. But yeah, so good. Cindy, where can our audience connect with you and learn more about the things that you do? Anything that you do outside of work, anything that's worth sharing? Where do you want them to go?
The easiest, honestly, is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is Cindy Knows Events. And actually, that's the same handle for my personal Instagram as well. I do share right now a visual update every Sunday morning to just show off what I did for the week. It's been harder and harder because, man, I have a lot of random photos from Strong, and usually I only do 6 photos at a time. So I'm realizing I need to call my system, because I need to do a better job.
You need Gemini 3 and Notebook LM to synthesize everything in this one amazing visual with all the things that you worked on. I know you're going to do that, because I think that's interesting that you do that. I actually like that.
You know what's funny? My daughter reminded me that she goes, oh, so you copied me? I go, what do you mean I copied you? And she shows me something she used to do, I guess, a year ago. And I go, oh my gosh, I guess maybe that is where I got the idea from.
It's in the DNA.
So I didn't realize that was in yours. And then that's where I got the idea from, because I just started doing it because I like to be able to see a visual recap. And it allows me, so there's 52 weeks in a year. I can basically build all those photos into one reel at the end of the year.
I love that.
So that's why I did it that way, is because I was like,
I think I'm going to steal your idea for 2026. Now
that
we have
do
AI
it. Again,
and it can create some amazing visuals. No, I'm not going to go take pictures in a warehouse of what I built. Obviously, I'm not doing that. But if you worked on different things throughout the week, and then you can put that into a infograph. Or some kind of that, not just for others, but for yourself. I think for me, I love that idea. That's so awesome.
Well, when I look back at it, it's nice to see all the things, because I used to only share like food and travel, and I was like, oh, this is fun. This is a lot.
I love that. Cindy, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you and get to hear about all the amazing things that you're doing, the things that you're learning. Thank you for being so real and raw and just sharing the good and the bad and the ugly. Everything is what makes you who you are and makes you the amazing leader that you are for both Red Velvet and Strong Events. Thank you for also showing that unfiltered leadership looks like this in real life. It's transparent, it's tested, it's full of truth. And for anyone that's been following and listening in, if this episode gave you a new perspective on leading with authenticity, then share it with someone else, and maybe they will be blessed to understand that there's highs and there's lows, and all of it is part of this amazing entrepreneurship journey that we're on. And until next time, stay real, stay resilient, and stay fit for events. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the CEO edition of the Events Demystified podcast.
This episode is brought to you by Tree Fan Events Production. We don't just produce events, we power them with AV, AI, and a strategy. From bespoke AV production planning and management to AI workshops, courses, and keynotes, we help teams build smarter events and stronger businesses. Learn more at treefanevents.com.